While Collins' first and immediate task, of course, would be the building up of the new Irish state, he would almost certainly have tackled the issue early on. And he would have tackled it on two fronts. First of all, by building bridges with the government in the north. And secondly, by intervening with the British government, who respected him at this stage and feared him as well, by insisting that the British government intervene in Northern Irish politics to ensure that the gerrymandering was stopped, that the anti-nationalist discrimination was stopped, that the political, if you like, abuses were stopped, that the anti-nationalist, anti-Catholic bias in housing policy and employment were stopped. And the abject failure to do so was the biggest factor that led to the festering sectarianism and polarisation that have brought about the misery, the mayhem and the murder of the sad recent 25-year period. Had the government in the south, as Collins certainly would have done, faced up to its responsibility to defend our beleaguered brethren in the north, we would not have had the sieges of the Catholic enclaves. We would not have had Bloody Sunday in Derry. We would not have had the atrocities on the British mainland. We would not have had the Provisional IRA. We would not have had the UVF, the UDA or the LVF. We would not have had the Columbia 3. And we would not have the worsened polarisation and sterility that afflicts Northern Ireland at present. What naturally goes through our minds at a time like this is the question of how Ireland and how Irish politics would have developed had Collins been allowed to live and to lead. Well, we can only conjecture, because sadly he was only 31 years of age at the time. But one of Collins's greatest assets was his single-mindedness and his organisational skills. I have no doubt that had Michael Collins lived, he would have welded together a political party which would be a dominant force in modern Ireland. While he attracted to himself lots of able, courageous, loyal and dedicated followers, Collins had that indefinable something that only truly great leaders possess. And what would you think of the legacy of Ireland in 2005? Well, can I say I had the honour of being Minister of State at the Department of Defence for 2.5 years, from 1995 to 1997. And as Minister of State, I visited Cyprus, Syria, Jerusalem and South Lebanon on 2 occasions to see at first hand and to inspect the work of the Irish troops as they proudly wore the blue beret of the United Nations. And the Force Commander in South Lebanon told me, General Karol Wozniak, he told me that he had 6 contingents under his command, keeping the Israeli-backed South Lebanese militia and the Hezbollah rebels apart. And he said to me that, he said, Minister, when I want a delicate job to be done, I send for the Irish. And he described them, he described the Irish Army wearing the blue beret of the United Nations, not alone as peacekeepers, but as peacemakers. And I thought to myself, my God, wouldn't Collins be so proud of the National Army of which he was the first Commander-in-Chief? And what would he think of the Current Garda Síochána, the civic guards established to keep law and order? Well, I think first of all he'd be very proud that his grandniece, Nora Owen, who unfortunately can't be with us today, was Minister for Justice for almost a 3-year period and indeed had the responsibility for looking after the Garda Síochána. And I think that he would be equally proud of the fact that the force is still one of the few unarmed police forces in the world. But I suspect that Michael Collins will be disgusted at the manner in which the force's fine reputation has been sullied by the criminal behaviour of the Gardaí in Donegal. Under Collins, the perpetrators would not have been allowed to retire on gratuities and golden handshakes and full pension rights, or in some cases transferred on active duty to Dublin and elsewhere. Collins would have booted them unceremoniously from the force. And what would he think of the performance of the politicians of the modern era? I think he would be turning in his Glasnevin grave that some of the inheritors of his unselfish legacy, as Yeats called it, fumbled in the greasy till and took hundreds of thousands in bribes for political favours that has given rise now to tribunals costing you, the taxpayer, millions and millions of pounds. And would he have approved of Ireland's participation in Europe? I believe that he'd be very proud of the fact that the Ireland that he liberated and the Ireland that he founded is now a proud, full and equal partner in the most successful political experiment in history, and which sees de Gaulle's dream of a united Europe from the Atlantic to the Urals on the brink of realisation. And I know that he'd take a particular pride in the fact that Irish, the language that he learned and loved, is at last recognised as an official working language within the European Union. But on the negative side, he'd be very disappointed that the language which he loved, which he learned, and which he embraced so wholeheartedly, and he always signed his name in Irish, Miala Colon, that a language which is such a distinctive part of our nationality and nationalism is not spoken more widely. As regards the Celtic Tiger, I'm sure that Collins would approve. But as Minister for Finance, Collins sketched out his vision of the economic potential of the new Free State. As Chrissy Osborne illustrates in her beautifully written book, Michael Collins himself, Collins foresaw huge prospects for the development of Ireland's natural resources, a modern, well-equipped fishing fleet, the development of forestry and the forestry department in order to plant the bare mountains of this country, a nationwide electricity system based on hydro and peat-burning plants. A man of his time, a man truly ahead of his time. But there is one thing of which I am absolutely confident. Michael Collins would have frowned at the fact that one of our richest modern natural resources, the natural gas find of County Mayo, is being given away literally for nothing to a foreign company. No royalties, a derisory tax rate, and massive write-offs. I think that's a scandal. Yeah.